Stephanie White, I've had it up to here with you. I've had it up to here. I know you are going to take zero accountability as always. As always, you blast the referees, I see. You flat out blast the referees for the horrible officiating on Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell. And I have to say, that's the only good thing you did last night was blast the refs. That's the only good thing you did, because you damn sure did not coach a good basketball game. And I know you're not going to take any accountability.
Stephanie White just delivered the WNBA's spiciest post-game meltdown. And no, it wasn't about her team bricking shots like they were allergic to the rim. Nope, she went full conspiracy mode on the refs, blaming them for everything short of climate change. Meanwhile, the Indiana Fever played like they were auditioning for a blooper reel. Was this a righteous crusade against bad officiating, or the greatest deflection in basketball history? Oh, you're going to want the tea on this one.
Tonight, look at some response from the Fever fandom, because the Stephanie White coaching situation is now splitting the fan base. All right, there's no way around it at all. You got fans mad that other fans are being critical of the coach. I don't know how you watch this team and not be extremely critical.
Stephanie White is out here putting on a masterclass in how to dodge responsibility like it's a defender in the paint. The Indiana Fever just suffered an absolutely brutal, can't even look at the box score kind of loss, and instead of talking about her team's shooting percentage that looked like a typo, she went all in blaming the referees. Not just blaming, but unleashing the kind of rant that would make even the most seasoned NBA coach blush.
Notification. The Indiana Fever are complete trash. Trash. How do you lose to the Dallas Wings, who have won 8 games all year? What a joke. Stephanie White is trash. Trash, bruh. Aaliyah Boston, you getting dragged up and down the court by the Chinese girl all game. Liu Eru destroyed Aaliyah Boston. Come on, man. What are we talking about here?
Here's the thing. The Fever didn't just lose, they got cooked. This was the kind of loss where you start wondering if someone accidentally swapped their Gatorade for NyQuil. The defense was so full of holes, you could have driven a team bus through the lane without even grazing a jersey. Rebounds, missed, rotations, non-existent. The opponent scored more in one quarter than the Fever managed in an entire half, and turnovers piled up like bad reality TV spinoffs, but in Stephanie's world, none of that mattered. Forget poor execution, blown layups, and lazy defense. The real culprit, she insisted, was the officiating crew.
Coaching. You cannot lose that game last night at home. You cannot. You cannot have a 19-0 run put on you in any quarter at home by any team in the league, much less the Dallas Wing. You can't have that run put on you by the New York Liberty at home. All right? That's unacceptable. Much less a trash-ass team like the Dallas.
Now, don't get me wrong. WNBA refs can absolutely be inconsistent. Some nights you watch a game and it feels like the whistle is being controlled by a toddler mashing buttons on a video game controller, just calling fouls at random for the pure chaos of it. But what we saw here, this was a full-on meltdown from the Fever that no amount of generous officiating could have rescued. Honestly, if the refs had spotted Indiana 20 points before tip-off, handed them a map to the basket, and given the opposing team oven mitts to play defense, the Fever still might have found a way to fumble it all back.
For it. The refs are not the reason we lost this game. I'm going to tell you that right now. As piss poor and as trash as these refs have been, and how they should be getting bombed on, and how half of them should be fired and sent back to Home Depot and Smart and Final. Yeah, that's where they should be. They were not the reason we lost this game. We fell down 14 points to a team that had 8 wins on the goddamn.
It's not like the referees were the ones out there bricking wide open layups or airballing shots you could hit in your driveway. They weren't the ones committing unforced turnovers like they were trying to win a giveaway contest or jogging back on defense as if the concept of transition defense had just been invented 5 minutes ago. The refs didn't clang wide-open corner threes, fumble passes straight out of bounds, or part the lane like the Red Sea and let their opponent score at will in the paint. No, that was all pure Fever-made magic. And by magic, I mean a disappearing act, because for long stretches, their offense simply evaporated.
But to add insult to injury, when we come out the game, scoring 15 points in the first quarter, when we come out the half, scoring 13 points in the third quarter, When the team seems not ready to actually play, when we have a coach that allows the Dallas Wings to go on a 19-0 run without making any adjustments, without calling a timeout, Dallas Wings 19-0 run. When we have all of these factors working against us, it's going to be very hard to win games.
But Stephanie came out after the game like a detective in a crime drama, presenting the refs as the guilty party. If there was a press conference drinking game where you take a shot every time a coach blames officiating, Fever fans would have been unconscious by the second question. She rattled off missed calls, questionable whistles, and phantom fouls like she was delivering the closing argument in a trial. Meanwhile, the cold hard truth, the Fever couldn't buy a bucket if they were shopping at Target during a clearance sale, went completely unmentioned. Let's talk about accountability for a second. Coaching isn't just about drawing up plays and yelling motivational slogans during timeouts. It's also about facing the music when your team plays like they collectively forgot how to basketball. And that's the part Stephanie seemed to skip. You can't get torched on both ends of the floor and then act like the refs were the only factor. That's like burning a pizza to charcoal and blaming the oven manufacturer. And I know some Fever fans will defend her, saying she's just standing up for her players. Sure, there's some value in protecting your team from criticism, but there's a line between support and full-on deflection. Your team is officially undefeated in its own alternate reality. In the real world, the scoreboard says otherwise.
Season. Stop it. Stop it. Let's see if Stephanie White takes any accountability for how this game played out. And we know she probably...
The funniest part? While Stephanie was out there blaming the Zebras, the opposing coach was probably in the locker room sipping water like a Bond villain, knowing their squad just dismantled Indiana without even breaking a sweat. No referee conspiracy needed, just solid execution, good shooting, and maybe a dash of watching the Fever self-destruct, and you could see it during the game. The body language from Indiana's players said it all. Heads down, hands on hips, that 1,000-yard stare you usually see from people stuck in a 3-hour flight delay. At one point, I half expected the Fever to start signing autographs for the opposing team mid-play. And yet, none of this seemed to make Stephanie's blame list. It was all whistles, calls, and the league's supposed vendetta against her team. You almost have to admire the confidence it takes to give a press conference like that. Imagine walking into work after completely botching a major project and telling your boss the real problem was the air conditioning. That's the energy we're talking about here. No hint of, we need to play better, or we'll go back to the drawing board. Just straight up referee roast session.
Chloe Bibby, I'm at the point where I want to see Chloe Bibby get 15 to 20 minutes a night. Shoot, maybe put her in the starting lineup. Chloe Bibby is a shot maker. She is a shot maker. She shoots the three. It's like she doesn't care whether it goes in or whether it misses. She knows as soon as it hits my hand, I'm throwing it up there. And more often than not, Chloe Bibby's hitting those three-point shots. Sophie Cunningham continues to show up for this team. Kelsey Mitchell played well enough, had a terrible brain fart. Oh my goodness, a terrible brain fart with 13 seconds left. The Indiana Fever lose to the Dallas Wings 81-80. We were down by as many as 17 points. 17 points. We battle back, we fight back, we get close.
Meanwhile, the fans who actually sat through the whole game, they know what happened. They saw the missed rotations, the lazy closeouts, the brick fest from beyond the arc. They know that while the refs might have had a bad night, the Fever's performance was in a whole different category of disaster. If there was an award for creative ways to lose, this game would be in the Hall of Fame. And here's the thing about blaming refs. It only works as a narrative for so long. The league is full of teams that deal with questionable calls every night and still find ways to win. Blaming the whistle might fire up your players for a game or two, but it doesn't fix the actual issues. That's it. No magic formula. But as long as the post-game focus is on the refs instead of the fundamentals, nothing changes. And honestly, the comedy of this situation is that the Fever's loss was so lopsided, blaming the refs almost makes it worse. If it had been a nail-biter, maybe you could argue that a couple bad calls swung the momentum. But when you're down double digits for most of the game, that argument doesn't hold water. It's like losing a 10-mile race and saying you would have won if not for one pothole at mile 2.
Difference. What'd you see go sideways in that stretch?
Well, I didn't think our attention to detail on defense was very good. They got loose for some easy ones. We started fouling, getting to the free throw line, and turning the ball over. I mean, there were moments where, there's no transition defense for turnovers for scores. And, we had multiple in a row. 27 points off of turnovers. And, I felt like.
Is any of this your fault, Stephanie White? Is any of this your fault? Or are you about to sit here and pass the buck to each player individually to make it seem like you have no part in this? This is disgusting.
The Indiana Fever have talent. They have players who can ball, but talent without discipline is just potential waiting to disappoint. You can't outrun bad habits, and you definitely can't whistle your way out of poor execution. The only thing the refs did consistently in that game was give the Fever more inbound plays after yet another turnover. If Stephanie wants to rally her team, fine, but rally them around fixing what's broken, not blaming everyone else. Because right now, the Fever aren't losing because of some shadowy officiating agenda. They're losing because they're making the same mistakes over and over. And until that changes, the scoreboard will keep telling the same story. The post-game blame game might make for good headlines, but it doesn't win championships. And unless something shifts, the only thing the Fever will be lifting at the end of the season is another disappointing record. And hey, if they do want to keep blaming the refs, at least make it entertaining. Throw in some wild accusations. Say the refs are secretly AI robots programmed by the opposing coach. Claim there's a secret rulebook only your opponents get to see. Go big or go home. Because at least then, we can all enjoy the show while waiting for the Fever to remember how to win.
The disaster that was, you cannot lose this game to the Dallas Wings. By the way, they're now 10-7 at home. No, when you got this much talent, this team should have, they should win, easily be,
If you think about it, maybe Stephanie is onto something. Not in terms of actually being right, but in terms of making headlines. People aren't talking about the ugly loss, they're talking about her rant. And in sports media, distraction is sometimes half the battle. But eventually, reality catches up. And when it does, it's going to take more than blaming Stripes to fix what's going wrong in Indiana. The Fever's night started bad and got worse faster than a microwave burrito exploding. From the opening tip, you could tell something was off. The energy was flat, like they'd just been told the pregame snacks were celery sticks and room temperature water. Except instead of fighting through it, the Fever seemed to collectively agree, yeah, this just isn't our night, somewhere around the middle of the second quarter. That's not grit. That's resignation with a side of frustration. And it's not like they were playing a team stacked with superhuman talent. The opponents were good, sure, but they weren't some mythical basketball juggernaut. They just ran their plays, moved the ball, and hit open shots. The basics. Meanwhile, Indiana looked like they were trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded every time they crossed half court.
This was an embarrassing performance. How do you lose at home to the Dallas Wings? You lose at home to the Dallas Wings that lost to the gum on the bottom of the shoe, Chicago Sky 3 times. They lost to the Sky 3 times. You lose to the Dallas Wings. Man, stop it, man. Stephanie White is a joke. The gameplay from the door they jumped on us. Jumped all over us from the door. Nobody came out ready. We down 14 points before you blink your eyes twice.
The turnovers were an absolute comedy. Not the haha funny kind, but the I can't believe I'm seeing this kind. Passes thrown directly into the hands of defenders. Dribbles off the foot. Post entries that went nowhere. I swear at one point the ball ended up in the front row and the fan who caught it looked like she was ready to check in for the Fever herself. And then came the free throws. Oh, the free throws. You'd think that after all the talk about the refs, Indiana would at least make the most of their trips to the line. Nope, they left points there like they were donating to charity. I mean, if the refs had been truly terrible, Indiana still had every opportunity to help themselves out. But you can't miss 15 layups and then tell the media it was the refs that doomed you. That's like missing your flight because you overslept and then blaming the airline for not sending a limo to your house. The funniest part is how detailed she got in her post-game rant, listing off specific plays where calls didn't go their way, talking about momentum shifts and phantom fouls. It was basically a TED Talk on bad officiating, but no mention of the 3 straight possessions in the third quarter where Indiana forgot to guard the corner shooter, or the 6 times they failed to box out, giving up easy putbacks. Those apparently weren't important to the story.
I just watched one of the biggest puke fest I've ever seen in my entire life. You know what should never happen? A 21-3 run at home by the opposing team on you when the opposing team is the Dallas Wings and they're not any good.
And it's not the first time a coach has done this. We've seen this movie before. Team plays poorly, loses badly, coach blames refs to distract from the on-court mess. But Stephanie went for the deluxe edition. She sold it like she was pitching a screenplay called Ref Revenge: The Untold Story. You almost wonder what the locker room vibe was after that game. Did the players buy into it? Were they all sitting there thinking, yeah, we got robbed? Or did a few of them silently know they just got flat out beat and the officiating was just a convenient cover? Because if the whole team actually believes they lost because of the whistle, then we've got a bigger problem. But here's the dangerous part. When you constantly point fingers outward, it builds a culture of blame instead of improvement. Players start thinking they don't need to change anything because the real issue is always external. That's a quick path to a losing season. The truly great teams, they own their bad nights, learn from them, and come back sharper. And the Fever have the tools to do that. They've got promising young talent, some veterans who've been in big games before, and a fan base that actually cares. But right now, it's like they're using those tools to build excuses instead of wins. If Indiana put half the energy into fixing their defensive rotations that they put into dissecting bad calls, they'd already be in playoff contention.
That is not what you want to see. A game when the Fever blew it. The Fever blew it. They were down 17 points with 6 minutes to go and nearly came back. I'm convinced Stephanie White threw that game. I'm convinced, and I'll talk about that later, I am fully convinced Stephanie White threw it.
It's also worth noting, bad officiating is part of sports. It happens at every level, every league. Some nights you get the calls, some nights you don't. The key is making sure you play well enough that a few bad whistles don't decide the outcome. You can't leave it in the hands of the refs when you've already sabotaged yourself for 3 quarters. And man, the third quarter was brutal. The Fever came out of halftime down, but within reach. All they had to do was make a push. Instead, it turned into a highlight reel for the other team. Wide open threes, fast breaks, dunks. It was like the Fever forgot the game had resumed. By the time they woke up, the deficit was a canyon, and no amount of whistle conspiracy could fill it in. What's wild is that this loss could have been a turning point, a chance to say, all right, we stunk it up tonight, here's what we fix. But instead, it was turned into Exhibit A in some imaginary case against the league's officiating. That's not just missing the point. That's missing it by a mile. If we're being honest, the Fever are at a crossroads. Keep going down this road of excuse-making, and they'll keep stacking L's until the season ends with a whimper. Or they can decide right now to take ownership, tighten up, and actually compete like a team with something to prove. The talent is there. The question is whether the mentality will follow.
Cue the crash outs. The Fever lost, and there's a clear case to blame head coach Stephanie White, so you know that is coming. Look, the Fever fought their way back into the game late against the Dallas Wings, who are not a good basketball team. The Wings should, be ashamed of themselves for even letting the Fever sniff a chance at victory in this one the way it went. But you also have to remember the circumstances the Fever are playing under. We need context here. It's why I praised them after the Chicago Sky game. They have no point guard. Their best player is sidelined, in Caitlin Clark, of course. Her replacement is out for the season. The only other capable person of playing that position is also out for the season, which is why the Fever turned the ball over so much in this game.
Because in the end, refs can't win or lose games for you. They can sway a moment, sure, but they're not the ones bricking jumpers or forgetting defensive assignments. That's on the players, the staff, the preparation, and until Indiana accepts that, they're just going to keep starring in these post-game drama episodes where the plot never changes. The Fever can still flip this season around, but they'll need to get real about why they're losing. It's not a vendetta from the Stripes. It's not a cosmic basketball curse. It's basketball 101. Hit your shots, defend with energy, take care of the ball, and stop gifting points to the other team. Simple, but apparently not simple enough on nights like this. So, Indiana, here's the deal. Stop auditioning for a reality show called Ref Wars and start playing like you actually want to win games. Because right now, the only thing the rest of the league fears when they see you on the schedule is that the refs might have to listen to another Stephanie White press conference afterward.